Welcome to PK Woodworking, and what will be a video hopefully about getting this WideBelt sander behind me running. I purchased this WideBelt sander used from a gentleman in Pennsylvania about a year ago, give or take, and it took a while to get here. And when it was delivered, the shipping company damaged it. So they damaged the in-feed and the out-feed rollers. I'll show you that at some point in time. They actually lost the out-feed rollers. So insurance replaced the out-feed rollers. And then what I'm gonna be trying to fix today, which is the actual bed and the mechanism to lower it and raise it, got damaged during transit. The bolt that held one of the sprockets onto one of the 4 posts, as they dropped it, I'm assuming, broke. And then that chain that supported it all came off of the 4 posts. So during transit, they had a chance to move, and now the actual thing is kind of tilted this way and maybe this way a little bit. So I'm gonna do my best to get them as level as possible before I even turn this thing on or not. So that's gonna be what I'm gonna be working through today to try to get done. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. It's a 2011 Casadei Libra 10, which is, I believe, built in the same exact factory that SCM makes their SD10. They are the same chassis, the same basic configuration. It's an SCM actual plate on the side of the machine. The features are all identical. So I just believe it's a difference of a couple of actual features. The in-feed and out-feed rollers look a little different. But in general, it seems like it's nothing that's going to be really difficult to either get parts for, because I was easy to get the parts from them, from Casadei. They have a US distributor, and hopefully we'll be able to get this thing up and running, and it'll be one of my bargains. So yeah, let me kind of show you the rest of this, and then I'll get started working on it, and we'll just kind of let it go as we go. So let me flip this thing around and then show you. So here's the machine, and it's a 37-inch machine, so 37 inches wide this way. The belts are 37 by 5 feet long, and I guess I should take my Arizona tee out of the way. And it's got a bunch of cool features on it, and hopefully we'll power it up by the time we're done here. What did I have to do to this to get it to where it's at now? I did replace this panel on the top because it was damaged. I replaced the parts in the back that I'll show you later. And then this I will probably replace. I didn't know this was damaged before we claimed the insurance, so I will probably replace this. It's not mandatory to replace, but if it works well, then I would just like it to be like from the get-go working good. And then, you know, it's all connected to power. We got air coming to it. I'll flip the air on also at some point in time. I wanted to give you another view of this so you can kind of understand. So some of the basic or more basic WideBelt sanders do not have this particular function where it can actually adjust the pressure of the front roller, and then also don't have the ability to lower the platen and raise the platen via the front. You have to kind of do it manually in here with some adjustments. Yet to see how that all functions and works. I do have to replace the graphite on the platen, and I have the new graphite, but I don't have any adhesive for it. So we got to figure out what that's going to be looking like. But I want to make sure you can see what I was talking about originally about down here. This is said chain and sprockets. Now what happened on the opposite side of the machine, which would be really hard for me to show. But a bolt on the bottom here, it's not a very big bolt, it's not made to hold any weight, broke, and this sprocket came off, and that's why the whole thing fell down. I don't see anything wrong with any of that other stuff, but I guess we'll see as I get deeper into it. So let's do that. So the method to my madness going to be, I'm going to actually crudely measure all of the distances between the frame and these rails right here, get them close, and then there's adjustments to fine tune it because it really does have to be dialed in really well. But I need to be able to turn this on, move the bed down without damaging anything, and then get a calibrated block in between there, and then I can kind of adjust it as I go. So I gotta get it close first. So that's the plan. So about now is when I need to start doing a little voiceover, because this is when things start to go sideways a bit. So after I measured each one of these individual posts to make sure that the jack screw was going to work correctly, I went through and adjusted them mostly on, if you're looking at this, the right side, to move that part higher and to get it level on both sides. But I went around adjusting those up and down just by turning the sprockets before I got the chain on. And I felt like I got to a place where it was getting close, but the lubrication seemed a little bit off. Like some of the jack screws didn't move as easily as some of the other ones did. So as I kind of added some lubrication, did whatever I needed to do, I felt more comfortable and got to the point where I was going to put the chain back on the sprockets and go through tightening it up. I didn't understand that you'll hear later that it needed to be really tight, like not like a guitar string as he told me. I was thinking it was more like a bike chain that it needed to be connected. And I didn't understand that there was slack that was going to happen either direction as it went up and down. So needless to say, I had a lot to learn as it went through. I'm going to show you in a second that I got to a point where I thought I was good and I started pressing some buttons. Things didn't go the way I thought they would. So here's me pressing some buttons, assuming something was going to work. And obviously, nothing was happening. Again, I didn't understand. There were some things missing from my understanding of the machine at this point in time. So I'm going to fast forward through me looking at more of it. But anyways, I checked everything I could check, inside, outside. I figured out that if you turn a switch inside, that's meant for you to be able to lower the actual table if you have a problem with a broken belt. That worked, but I got it temporarily to move up, and the sound that it made was horrific. I stopped immediately, and that kind of brought me to having some conversations over the next week with the people from Casadei and SCM, which brings me to where we are here. Welcome back. We're about 6 days after when the last video ended. So I've got a couple of cameras we're going to use this time, and I wanted to go over kind of where I left off. So the last part of the video was me frantically trying to work this thing out and get it to run. And there was a few things I didn't understand, and I got incredibly lucky over this week to get support from both the people at Casadei and then specifically from SCM and one of their techs, which is just phenomenal. So let me kind of go through what that looks like. What I didn't know is how important this little knob was. So this little knob, it rotates clockwise, counterclockwise like normal. But when you have it so that it's already all the way turned to clockwise, the machine isn't going to function. It's an automatic like e-stop for the actual machine to know whether or not the door is able to be opened or not able to be opened. So when it's already put all the way pushed in, you can hear that click. That's part of it, and then you have to unwind this all the way into, well, this little plunger that's maybe hard to see inside this. This is on both sides, by the way, actually moves all the way in. So that was one thing I didn't know. So obviously nothing was going to work until that happened. So I called and talked to the people at Casadei because I need to order a new piece of felt. As you can see, the person before me had run the machine too long with the felt that was on it. The graphite that was on it. The graphite fused itself and burnt itself into this piece of felt. And so I need to replace the felt and then put the graphite on that I have already to put on it. Now this is not normal felt. It's incredibly hard. It's about a 1/2 inch thick, and it's not cheap, and you can't just find it anywhere. So I'm waiting for the quote on that, but it'll come back. You can actually run the machine without the platen on it. That's what this is the platen. This just helps to reduce the scratch pattern, etc. I'm learning more as I go. So when I reached out to them about like the fact that it wasn't, I couldn't get it to turn on, I was asking if there's any repair technicians in where I live in Southern California. We also kind of solidified the fact that I needed to order that, that felt. So he's looking into that. There's lots of people that go on vacation in Italy in the summer, so sometimes it takes a bit. Anyway, so then I got really lucky because I asked my some of the people that I got connected with SCM when I bought my Law Invincible if they knew of any repair people out in Southern California, because it's the same machine as an SD10, and I kind of validated that later. And they told me they were going to try to help me out, and so they did, and they connected me with somebody who was incredibly nice. On a Monday night, called me while he was having dinner, and he walked through some basic stuff, talked to me about that like lockout part that I didn't know, and then we walked through some of the parts of it, and he said he didn't see anything that was obvious based on the things that I had already gone through. And so then he gave me some other feedback. So the first feedback was the chain that's right here has to be really taut. It can't have a lot of slack in it. So that was one thing I didn't know. Got that part solved, easy peasy. Next part was a technique to get it level, to get it flat. So I think I was pretty close, so I was good with that part. And then he said, hey, give me the machine plate. I'll look up the schematic, and then I'll call you back the next day. So he did. He called me back the next day, and I'm going to show you what we looked at. So this is the inside of the electrical cabinet of this machine. And it looks incredibly complex. And I think to me originally, let me move this a little bit. And I think to me, originally, it was really complex. But there's one thing you got to keep in mind. A, there's no computers in this machine, so really, all of these devices, this one is the anti-dubbing feature, which works with the platen. Anything that's computerized for it is built inside of this, and it's really just a timer. This is the DRO, so this is just its own little possible computer. And then this over here is just a meter for how many amps the actual machine's pushing. The rest of these things right here that we're looking at, they're all just timers and relays that are kind of like big looking and like maybe make people afraid. So, and then on the end over here is the air stuff, which again is another one of those things that can be kind of confusing for people, whatever. So he called me that next morning and immediately brought me to this set of places where it's almost like a, I don't know, like a wire strip where one wire connects to another to continue in the machine. I checked 4 voltages, they were all fine. I checked the 5th voltage and he said, aha, we've got a problem. So he brought me immediately to these pressure transducers that were here that was connected to it. And lo and behold, I touched it and a wire fell out of this connector, this little connector. And so I said, hold on, I'll call you right back. So I went inside the garage, got out some connectors, crimped on a new connector, put it on, and voila, it worked. So let me kind of run you through that now, and I'll turn the power on and get that going. Okay, so currently the 3-phase is turned on, and I'm going to turn on the air, and you'll hear it do its little thing. So the air does a bunch of things. It tensions the belt, it disconnects or connects the stopping anything from working last time. And anyways, it kind of keeps you from using it or using it. This right here, I do need to figure out like with it. This does not want to play nicely with the switch on the front. So it is something I'm going to have to like figure out over time, but it's not a big deal. Just you turn it on. So now we have power to the machine. You can see my little grit e-stop trigger now has power. And then there's some timers that happen that you got to wait for. So, but everything else really happens on this side of the control panel at this point. So what I couldn't get to do before last time, I could not get this start button to actually illuminate. But now, well, it's supposed to. Maybe I've got something else going on. That was loud. Oh, door's open. See? So now as I twist this all the way through, you'll actually hear something as I click it. Now I'm good to go. And now the light illuminates. So now the machine will actually function, right? So one thing I did do is I replaced the old belt on it. A wide belt sander, if it throws the belt, is not a fun thing. So I replaced it with one of the new ones, and works perfectly. So let me give you some of the functions first of all. So it obviously lowers this belt down, and you'll see the DRO changes as it goes down. And it's much quieter than it was before because of the slack in the chain. And then going up, it does make little clicks as it goes up, but I don't think that's anything that's going to keep me from using anything or doing anything. And then you can see that it's got the feed roller that works great. So one thing I needed to do with the feed roller is to make it a little bit more, the rubber kind of get more a little sticky. I needed to rub it down with a solution of 15% isopropyl alcohol and the rest water. And I rubbed that on the actual top of this, and it did make it more grippy. It's possible that I will need to do something that's like you actually sand a small bit of this off with the sander. But right now it seems to be gripping the wood just fine. I sent a couple of pieces through to test. Seems to be okay. It's got 2 speeds. I don't know why you'd use that fast speed. That seems incredibly fast to me. But anyway, that's kind of how this works. Now the rest of this is loud. So I just want to be upfront with you and kind of walk through how this all works. So this is star delta, which means it starts with one of the phases of the machine. And then after it gets up and running, it turns on the rest of the phases of the motor. That kind of keeps the inrush current down for the machine, which is a good feature. And then after that happens, I've got it timed so the dust collector comes on after that so that there's less, I guess, inrush current going to my phase perfect converter. And then after that, I can, turn on the actual belt or whatever. So usually what you do when you have a wide belt is you have micrometers that you make sure you keep around, because that's how you measure the opening that you want to do. There is another feature on the machine over here where you can automatically do it. I don't know if that's dialed in yet, so I'm going to go ahead and not do that at this point. So right now, in the middle of this board, this is some maple 9660 is where I'm at, so we'd want to get it up. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so we're going to start up the machine, and again, this won't turn, the light won't illuminate completely until all 3 phases are working, so you'll kind of see this. This is the amp reading that's right here, and one thing that's really cool, and I'm going to turn on right now, is that grit, which is, again, my dust collection system, shows you the actual amount of current that it's pulling while it turns on. So let me get this thing open and moved over to that actual machine. So I go to the triggers and I scroll up to my wide belt sander, and then I click on this little button right here on the side that lets me see the amperage. So now you'll see when I turn this on, and it's going to be loud, but I'll kind of show the amperage up here and then what it shows here too. So here we go. you'll kind of see this stuff that's on here, I hope. Now it's all gone. So you can kind of see that it peaked at about 52 amps, give or take, maybe 54 amps. And then it levels off in the 20s. And then, you know, when you're sanding, it's in the 20 amp range, plus whatever the dust collector is pulling, because it's 3-phase also. But as you can see, works like a champ and does a great job. This is a 120 belt it's got in it right now. It does not have the platen in it, of course I said, so I think it'll even sand better after the platen comes in. So let me talk about like leveling of this table. I believe that I've got it labeled within a couple of thousand. I mean, leveled within a couple of thousands. You may be thinking to yourself, oh my God, that's crazy, it's overkill. I don't know, but if you're sanding something wide, you don't want one side to be a different dimension than the other side. And I'm still not positive that I've got it completely dialed in. It may take some more work. We'll see. But at this point in time, the way I measured it last night, we seem to be on the money. So a couple of things with it that I did talk about before. So now that I knew it got it up and running, I did order a new in-feed roller. I know it looks like, hey, Paul, it's just got some stains on it or whatever, but actually underneath here, which I know is probably harder to see, so let me tilt this down a little bit. But over here, there's actually some sheet metal that connects onto this front piece, and that sheet metal is kind of bent and ripping, and I don't believe it will support much weight. And so I really want to make sure that this thing actually works correctly. You can see the same thing here. There's also a dent here that's actually more of a tear underneath, if that makes any sense. So this is not a cheap part. I mean, nothing for a wide belt sander is inexpensive, but I think when it all comes out for how much money I've got into this, it will be less than the double drum sander that I sold. So this is going to be a great addition to the shop, I believe, at this point. So I'm gonna wrap this all up by saying there's a couple of things left to do. I still need to make sure that this belt tracks correctly and has the grip that I need to get pieces of wood through. I need to adjust both the in-feed and the out-feed rollers so that they're close to this belt when they're working. And I just need to you know, get the felt put on the platen and then the graphite put on top of the platen. Good to go. Now, a couple of things. I don't know how these two features work yet. So I don't know how this auto and manual works for raising and lowering the drum. From what I can see, it doesn't do anything at this point. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if there's a feature that's not working on it. And then I won't know, obviously, for this manual and auto part of the platen, how that works. The auto, I assume, is tied to this device, which is the anti-dubbing part, which I don't clearly understand how to use yet. And then the manual one, I think, is me actually manually adjusting where that is at. So again, I don't know how those function yet. I'll get there, I think. I think I'll understand how that works at some point in time. But yeah, so about time to wrap this one up. So again, wide belt sanders are sometimes incredibly complex, but they're just a machine. The electrical parts of it are definitely way more intense than most of the machines that I have. Sans maybe the computerized ones that I have, like the 2 Felders and the SCM joiner planer. I just have to say, like, these things are definitely built to a different standard. They're meant to be used all the time. This is not one of those things where, you know, you're using it and then you're like, it breaks down. Like, these things are meant to be used all day long. And so when you find one from a hobby shop, that's, you know, this was probably used for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. Then you, as long as it's in clean condition like this one is, then it should work. So I'm hoping that that continues to be the case. So needless to say, thanks for watching. There's a bit of a panic you're gonna see in the video before that happened because of me thinking the thing wasn't gonna work. But then the people at SCM and the people at Casadei, which is JKL Machinery, were really good about helping me out with this machine. And yeah, thanks to both of them. Thanks for watching PK Woodworking, and don't be afraid to subscribe.
You go press it. You like that?
No.
Wait. What the hell? That's sick. And it just, so I keep like running. That's so cool.